All right, when last I was delving into Boswell's Life of Johnson, we were reading, or reciting, I suppose you would say. Actually, I guess it's not reciting. Anyway, we were reading some poetical translations Johnson wrote when he was just a lad, a wee lad. Now we're up to Translation of Horace, Book 2, Ode 9. Clouds do not always veil the skies, nor showers immerse the verdant plain, nor do the billows always rise, or storms afflict the ruffled main. Nor Valgus on the Armenian shores do the chain waters always freeze, not always furious Boreas roars, or bend with violent force the trees. But you are ever drowned in tears, for mists dead you ever mourn. No setting soul can ease your cares, but finding you're sad at his return. Return? It's a little forced rhyme there. The wise experienced Gretchen sage mourn not Anticulus so long, nor did King Priam's hoary age so much lament his slaughtered son. Leave off at length these women's sighs, Augustus's numerous trophies sing. Repeat that prince's victories, to whom all nations tributes bring. The fates roll in humbler waves. At length the undaunted Scythian yields, content to live the Roman slave, and scarce forsaken his native fields. I'm sorry, I just got something in my eye. I'm just kidding. All right, I'm just making sure I read this other one. I'm pretty sure I did. All right, now we have the translation. Well, maybe make sure I don't skip a page here. Nope. Translation of part of the dialogue between Hector and Andromache from the 6th book of Homer's Iliad. She ceased. Then godlike Hector answered kind, his various plumage sporting in the wind. That post and all the rest shall be my care. But shall I then forsake the unfinished war? How would the Trojan brand great Hector's name, and one base action sully all my fame, acquired by wounds and battles bravely fought? Oh, how my soul abhors so mean a thought! Long since I learned to slight this fleeting breath, and view with cheerful eyes approaching death. The inexorable sisters have decreed that Priam's house and Priam's self shall bleed. The day will come in which proud Troy shall yield, and spread its smoking ruins o'er the field. Yet Hecuba nor Priam's hoary age, again with this Priam's hoary age, whose blood shall quench some Gretchen thirsty rage, nor my brave brothers that have bit the ground, their souls dismissed through many a ghastly wound, can in my bosom half the grief create, as the sad thought of your impending fate. When some proud Gretchen dame shall task impose, mimic your tears and ridicule your woes. That's what I'm doing right now. Beneath Empyrea's waters shall you sweat, and fainting scarce support the liquid weight. Then shall come some Argive loud insulting cry, Behold the wife of Hector, guard of Troy. Tears at my name shall drown those beauteous eyes, and that fair bosom heave with rising sighs. Before that day, by some brave hero's hand, may I lie slain and spurn the bloody sand. Was that like the same poem as the other one? Sounds very familiar to me. Anyway, moving forward to a young lady on her birthday. And there's a footnote here. Mr. Hector informs me that this was made almost impromptu in his presence. This tributary verse receives my fair, warm with an ardent lover's fondest prayer. May this returning day forever find thy form most lovely, more adorn thy mind. All pains, all cares, may favourite heaven remove, all but the sweet solicitudes of love. May powerful nature join with grateful art to point each glance and force it to the heart. O then, when conquered crowds confess thy sway, when even proud wealth and prouder wit obey, my fair, be minded of thy mighty trust. Alas, 'tis hard for beauty to be just. Those sovereign charms with strictest care employ, nor give the generous pain the worthless joy. With his own form acquaint, the forward fool, shewn in the faithful glass of ridicule. Teach, mimic, censure her, on faults to find, no more let coquettes to themselves be blind. So shall Belinda's charms improve mankind. Oh, that's quite sweet, isn't it? And now we have the young author. Footnote here, this he inserted with many alterations in the Gentleman's Magazine, 1743. By the way, I should mention at this point that running like a little ticker board on the top of each page is a year, and I believe that year is the year we are concerning ourselves with Johnson's life. So we're in 1725 to 1728 right now. Could be wrong with that about that. I'll have to look it up later, but I believe that's the idea. Anyway, the young author. When first a peasant, long inclined to roam, forsakes his rural sports and peaceful home, pleased with the scene and the smiling ocean yields, he scorns the verdant meads and flowery fields. Then dances jocund o'er the watery way, while the breeze whispers and the streamers play. Unbounded prospects in his bosom roll, and future millions lift his rising soul. In blissful dreams he digs the golden mine, enraptured sees the new-found ruby shine. Joy insincere, thick clouds invade the skies, loud roar the bellows, high the waves arise. Sickening with fear, he longs to view the shore, and vows to trust the faithless deep no more. So the young author, panting after fame, and the long honors of a lasting name, entrust his happiness to humankind, more false, more cruel than the seas or wind? I don't know about that, Johnson. Toil on, dull crowd, in ecstasies he cries, for wealth or title, perishable prize, when I those transitory blessings scorn, secure of praise from ages yet unborn. This thought once formed, all counsel comes too late. He flies to press and hurries on his fate. Swiftly he sees the imagined laurels spread, and feels the unfading wreath surround his head. Warned by another's fate, vain youth, be wise. Those dreams were settles once in Ogilby's. The pamphlet spreads, incessant hisses rise, to some retreat the baffled writer flies, where no sour critics snarl, no sneers molest, safe from the tart lampoon and stinging jest. There begs of heaven a less distinguished lot, glad to be hid, and proud to be forgot. How droll, huh? And now this one, epilogue, intended to have been spoken by a lady who was to personate the ghost of Hermione. Footnote here. Some young ladies at Lichfield having proposed to act the distressed mother, Johnson wrote this, and gave it to Mr. Hector to convey it privately to them. Ye blooming train, who gives despair or joy, bless with a smile or with a frown destroy, in whose fair cheeks destructive cupids wait, and with unerring shafts distribute fate, whose snowy breasts, whose animated eyes each youth admires, though each admirer dies. Whilst you deride their pangs and barbarous play, unpitying see them weep and hear them pray, and unrelating sport 10,000 lives away. For you, ye fair, I quit the gloomy plains, where sable night in all her horror reigns. No fragrant bowers, no delightful glades. Bowers? Receive the unhappy ghost of scornful maids. For tender nymphs the myrtle blooms, and weaves her bending bows in pleasing glooms. Perennial roses deck each purple vale, and scents ambrosial breathe in every gale. For hence are banished vapors, spleen, and tears, tea, scandal, ivory teeth, and languid airs. No pug, nor favourite Cupid, there enjoys the balmy kiss for which poor Theseus dies. Formed to delight, they use no foreign arms, nor torturing whalebones pinch them into charms. Is that about corsets, maybe? No conscious blushes there, their cheeks aflame. For those who feel no guilt can know no shame. Unfaded still their former charms they shew. Around them pleasures wait and joys forever new. But cruel virgins meet severer fates, expelled and exiled from the blissful seats, to dismal realms and regions void of peace, where furies ever howl and serpents hiss. O'er the sad plains perpetual tempests sigh, and poisonous vapors blackening all the sky, with livid hue the fairest face o'ercast. And every beauty withers at the blast. Wherever they fly, their lovers' ghosts pursue, inflicting all those ills which once they knew. Vexation, fury, jealousy, despair, vex every eye and every bosom tear. He loves that word bosom, doesn't he? Their foul deformities by all descried, no maid to flatter, and no paint to hide. Then melt, ye fair, while crowds around you sigh, nor let disdain sit lowering in your eye. With pity soften every awful grace, and beauty smile auspicious in each face. To ease their pains exert your milder power, so shall your guiltless reign and all mankind adore. Or adore, is how we would pronounce it now. I don't know how you're pronouncing power back then. Adore, power. To ease their pain exert your milder power, so shall your guiltless reign and all mankind adore. I don't know. Thank you. The 2 years which he spent at home, after his return from, there go my papers, Stourbridge, he passed in what he thought idleness, and was scolded by his father for his want of steady application. Sounds familiar. He had no settled plan or life, nor looked forward at all, but merely lived from day to day. Sounds familiar. Yet he read a great deal in a desultory manner, without any shame or study, as chance threw books in his way. Sounds familiar. And inclination directed him through them. He used to mention one curious instance of his casual reading, when but a boy, having imagined that his brother had hid some apples behind a large folio upon an upper shelf of his father's shop, he climbed up to search for them. There were no apples, but the large folio proved to be Petrarch, whom he had seen mentioned in some preface as one of the restorers of learning. His curiosity having been thus excited, he sat down with avidity and read a great part of the book. What he read during those 2 years, he told me, was not works of mere amusement, nor voyages and travels, but all literature. Sir, all ancient writers, all manly. Though but little Greek, only some of Anacreon and Hesiod, but in this irregular manner, added he, I had looked into a great many books, which were not commonly known at the universities, where they seldom read any books but what are put into their hands by their tutors. So that when I came to Oxford, Dr. Adams, now master at Pembroke College, told me I was the best qualified for the university that he had ever known to come there. In estimating the progress of his mind during these 2 years, as well as in future periods of his life, we must not regard his own hasty confession of idleness, for we see, when he explains himself, that he was acquiring various stores. And indeed, he himself concluded the account with saying, I would not have you think I was doing nothing then. He might perhaps have studied more assiduously, but it may be doubted whether such a mind as his was not more enriched by roaming at large in the fields of literature than if it had been confined to any single spot. That's what I always say. The analogy between body and mind is very general, and the parallel which will hold as to their food as well as any other particular. The flesh of animals who feeds excursively is allowed to have a higher flavor than that of those who are cooped up. May there not be the same difference between men who read as their taste prompts and men who are confined in cells and colleges to stated tasks? That a man in Mr. Michael Johnson's circumstances should think of sending his son to the expense of the University of Oxford and his own charge seems very improbable. The subject was too delicate to question Johnson upon, but I have been assured by Dr. Taylor and the Sheme that the Sheme never would have taken place, and not a gentleman of Shropshire, one of his own schoolfellows, spontaneously undertaken to support him at Oxford, in the character of his companion, though in fact he never received any assistance whatever from that gentleman. It was probably Andrew Corbett Hawkins. He, however, went to Oxford and was entered as commoner of Pembroke College on the 31st of October, 1728. That's Halloween, being then in his 19th year. The Reverend Dr. Adams, who afterwards presided over Pembroke College with universal esteem, told me he was present and gave me some account of what passed on the night of Johnson's arrival at Oxford. Oh yeah, so here we have the top, our little scroll. It says Thursday, 31st October, 1728. So that's what those top numbers mean, as I assumed. Anyway, passed on the night, gave me some account of what happened when he arrived in Oxford. On that evening, his father, who had anxiously accompanied him, found means to have him introduced to Mr. Jordan, who was to be his tutor. His being put under any tutor reminds us of what Wood said of Robert Burton, author of The Anatomy of Melancholy. Side note from yours truly, I thought about reading that book, but maybe some years from now I'll be reading that out loud. Anyway, Robert Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy, when elected student at Christ Church. For form's sake, though he wanted not a tutor, he was put under the tuition of Dr. John Bancroft, afterwards Bishop of Oxon. His, meaning Johnson's father, seemed very full of the merits of his son, and told the company he was a good scholar and a poet, and wrote Latin verses. His figure and manner appeared strange to them, but he behaved modestly and sat silent, till upon something which occurred in the course of conversation, he suddenly struck in and quoted Macrobius. and thus he gave the first impression of that more extensive reading in which he had indulged himself. His tutor, Mr. Jordan, fellow of Pembroke, was not, it seems, a man of such abilities as we should conceive requisite for the instructor of Samuel Johnson, who gave me the following account of him, in quotes. He was a very worthy man, but a heavy man, and I did not profit much by his instructions. Indeed, I did not attend him much. The first day after I came to college, I waited upon him, and then stayed away 4. On the 6th, Mr. Jordan asked me why I had not attended. I answered I had been sliding in Christchurch Meadow. And then I said, with as much nonchalance as I am now talking to you, I had no notion that I was wrong, or irreverent to my tutor. And here's a quote from Boswell. That, sir, was great fortitude of mind. Johnson replies, No, sir, stark insensibility. It ought to be remembered that Dr. Johnson was apt in his literary as well as moral exercises to overcharge his defects. Dr. Adams informed me that he attended his tutor lectures and also the lectures in the college hall very regularly. Well, that's good to know, isn't it? All right. Well, we'll end it there for today. What more do you want, huh? Till next time, bye from Boswell.